It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. What is the matter with Texas? Oh my goodness! What? You had the shooter, another mass shooter, killed 8. Only reason that stopped is you had a cop was in the neighborhood for something else. You had a driver who still don't know why flipped the curb and killed 7 people, injuring probably it looked like a dozen more. It seems from where I sit, the rage machine is ramping up, and we are in this moment creating homegrown terrorists. I mean, every time we turn around, and the fact that you've got Republicans refusing to address any of the causes, and in fact, inflaming them. This is the world we're in right now. The lies and fear machine is ramping up the rage. And, I think back to when I had this conversation today, when were Americans more fearful? Was it after 9/11? Or is it now? Because my mind went back to 9/11, and look, I knew a lot of people who were, here, take my privacy, take my rights, give us a national ID card, do all these, keep us safe. Because it was this foreign entity, it was the Islamo-fascist, whatever that was. But this is our neighbors. This is people in our neighborhood. And it's kind of scary when you look at the reality that we've lost the ability to critically think. We've lost the ability to legislate. We've lost the ability to govern. We've lost the ability to talk to each other. We've certainly lost the ability to solve any problem, not even complicated problems. We can't seem to solve anything, and it's because we've been divided. Every conversation I have with a Republican voter, a MAGA hat, Trump supporter, an anti-Biden, F. Brandon type, it's always the same. It's always the same. The messaging is absolutely the same because it's coordinated. It filters down. So when Marjorie Trainwreck Green comes out and says, the shooting, evil forces. It was evil forces at play. But yet evil forces that tend to be on your side of the aisle with all of your rhetoric and all of your talking points and all of your mouthpieces. For instance, this shooter, and I'm never going to name the name of the shooter, but if you looked at this shooter's social media, he's got a Russian social media account, got a profile there, posting himself. I'm guessing they're his Nazi tattoos. Reconnaissance photos of the outlet mall that he shot up weeks prior to this, and posting stuff from right-wing mouthpieces. YouTube is full of right-wing extremists, and this is where the problem is. We're so far with the rhetoric, because the only thing that gets any real attention is how crazy and how off the beaten path can you get. Again, it's never about solving problems. It's never about making things better. It's about my side winning. And I look at this shooter. I mean, who puts a smiley face with a Hitler mustache on it and thinks that's okay? I know what it is. It's to get attention, because this guy, when you read a little bit more about him, hates all the right people on the right. That's all I can come up with. Hates all the right people out there. Hates his parents. Hates society. Hates those BLM people. Hates Antifa. But loves the yellow smiley faced Hitler mustache clown. Self-described incel. Hates himself. Hates women. A loner, he says. And you go, this is where mental health treatment can help. This is where maybe not having a group of angry young guys sitting on a social media platform talking woe is me. Maybe take a shower, maybe clean yourself up, maybe brush your teeth, comb your hair, learn how to talk to other people, get out of the basement, and maybe you'll find a girlfriend. I mean, this is part of what this is. The fact that there's a word for not being able to get a date is pretty remarkable to me. But the bigger part of this is there's a culture being created where we have to take polar opposite sides. There are no adults anymore in the room going, no, we've got to move forward. The extreme stuff put aside. For instance, because as I said, every conversation I have with someone who would vote for Trump or someone who would vote for DeSantis, it's always the same. It's always the same. They're taking over the schools. The liberals are indoctrinating our kids, and they go, where is this? Because there's porn in all of the books. And this is where, again, critical thinking comes into play. There are some books that have come forth that you go, yeah, that probably shouldn't be in the classroom, and we should have a mechanism to get that out. But it's not all of them. It's like anything. I can pick an extreme anything and then paint with really wide generalized brushes and say that it's all. And this is what these Moms for Liberty groups are doing. That's what the moneyed interest behind this is pushing, to get you to hate public education because there's a book on the shelf that may talk about genitalia. And that's bad because, we don't want kids knowing that they have body parts. We're okay with them killing each other, but body parts, not so much. And this has really sparked the fear, the outrage, because we have to be an outrage society, to where now you've got, 28 states that have passed at least 70, 75 parental control bills of what teachers and students can say and what they can do. We're micromanaging the education process. And why is that important? That's important because we don't want critical thinkers. Remember this. Evidently, we now want, because parents are now, right-wing parents are now riled up, we now want puritanical little robots. And we want kids to learn about things in the worst way possible. And this is where my frustration comes in the moment that we're in, because again, the party who keeps telling me how pure they are and how they know what's best for our kids is the exact party doing the things behind the scenes that they claim. I've always said that anybody who is fixated on something, where this is their cause, it's who they are. So if you're against drag shows and you're against I'm going to protect the children, chances are you got a problem here. And I point to Texas Representative Brian Slayton. Brian Slayton is one of those guys. He is dead set against the drag shows, completely against drag shows. Drag shows are bad. Against the transgender folks, bad. All of this, bad. Turns out, you know where this is going. You can come with me on this. Turns out, the representative, I don't know, he violated several of the congressional rules about providing an underage, intern, or I guess it's a member of his staff, a 19-year-old member of his staff. And who chooses 19-year-old members for their staff? Well, I guess people who are going to give alcohol and have sex with them. I guess that's the kick here. Good family values guy. Somebody who, again, always preaching the preach. Follow me. I know what to do. I'm pious. I'm good. So you got this 45-year-old guy chasing the 19-year-old. Now, look, if that's your thing, I think 19, you're an adult. You're going to make decisions. It is what it is. But don't be an absolute hypocrite about it. Now, this is a power position. There's a whole bunch that goes to this. But, these folks who point their finger constantly are the ones that I have a lot of concern for, because there's a lot in that closet that I have to worry about. To where if we could, I don't know, sit down and talk about things and come to an agreement. For instance, I had a conversation this past weekend with someone who thought they had me. They said, well, tell me what you hated about Donald Trump. And I went through things I didn't like that Trump did. And I was very honest. His Twitter account, the kind of craziness that he projected out of the White House. I don't think he was very good at following through. The only thing he got really done was massive tax breaks for the very wealthy that are now expiring on we, the working people. He ran up a lot of debt. He mishandled the pandemic. We could go on, and I couldn't go on for a while. His deregulation of safety in many industries, I think, was going to harm and kill people. And then he thought he was going to get me. Oh, okay, well, we know you don't like him. Well, name some things you like about him. And I said, well, to be honest, I think he did okay on the USMCA. I was happy with that. I was happy with the fact that, in Mexico now labor unions are the law and independent unions are the law. I think that was good. I think the tariffs on China were a step in the right direction. Would have liked to seen a much bigger plan. I think, the fact that he kept us out of war, he didn't start any new ones, which I was fearful that his bravado and his behavior might. I was okay with that. And this person was like, he had nowhere to go because he thought that I'm in the camp. And I'm going, no, look, I can look at every president throughout my lifetime and go, there were good things and there were bad things. The difference is how did the good and the bad weigh for we, the working people? That's where my mind went and where it goes. And where this person just couldn't understand that. And I said, issue after issue, it comes down to how do we fix the problem? How do we come to a solution? Because again, the first thing, he has nowhere to go, so they default back to what's being shoved down their throat from the outrage candy machine. It's coming back to the transgender issue, to the bathrooms. It's coming back to gay marriage, and it's all that. It's the talking points. And when I tried to have a rational back and forth and say, look, there are things that we should be talking about. There's things that I don't agree with. There are things that I agree with. For instance, I'm a firm believer in people pursuing their happiness. Whatever it is you want to do with your life, God bless you. Do your thing. Or don't. As long as it doesn't affect me or anyone else, you have the right to do whatever you want. Now, in those areas where it does affect others, that's where we have to come to some kind of discussion, some kind of closure, some kind of policy. And it's not 100% one way or the other. That's not how this game works. And there was no ability to have that back and forth. And I'm hoping that we get to the point very soon, because I fear what's coming is horrible. You look at the AI situation that's coming up. I fear we're in a generation we're going to have kids who can't write a sentence, let alone think about a sentence. So we had better figure out quickly how to talk to each other again, and call out these extremists, the fringe, because the fringe is going to drive us over the cliff. But I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Love to have one of those conversations with you. Let me know what you think. Going to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And after years of politicians talking about it, they finally passed a big new infrastructure package to rebuild roads and bridges, fix drinking water systems, and make the energy grid more secure. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice as Americans.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
So Ted Cruz is back at it again. Evidently, Ted thinks that they're going to be able to impeach Biden because he believes, and again, this is my problem with the believer crowd. He believes there's evidence. He hasn't seen it, but he knows it exists. And here's my problem with this. Again, there's so many things going on. There's so many things that need to be addressed. And yet Ted Cruz is spending his time pushing this fake narrative that somehow, Joe Biden's part of this criminal syndicate that's making all this money. And again, if there was evidence out there, the right-wing spin machine would be spinning it. So we know this is a pile of BS. But the thing that's frustrating me is did not hear Ted Cruz mention one thing about a worker in Texas who died of heat exposure. This is one of those things that blows my mind. There was evidently Tesla is building one of these big giga factories, or one of these giant facilities, and they had a contractor building this facility in the Texas heat. And the report comes out that says that the body temperature of this guy was 106.4. 106.4. He literally melted his organs. He cooked himself. Now, again, Texas has no laws that mandate breaks. There's none of that. Texas is a right to work state. So you got the right to work until you work yourself literally to death. And as I was reading through the story, my mind is going, how do you allow yourself to get into that situation without saying, hey, you know what? I'm not sweating anymore. Whatever. How do you allow that? And look, I understand the Texas heat is literally a killer. How do you not have laws to protect people in that way? Well, because it's Texas. They don't care about people. It shows in their policy. And look, Texas isn't the only state in the country that doesn't allow workers to take breaks, that doesn't mandate it as part of the law. People often, this is what I find interesting. I get a lot of responses from people going, every state mandates you have to have a bathroom break. And no, they don't. Every state mandates you have to take a lunch break. No, they don't. A lot of states have none of those because, again, it's back to employer-employee relations being master and servant relationships. You worker, you work for me, I own you, you do what you're told. You have no rights once you walk across the threshold of me paying you. And it's this kind of stuff. And look, thousands of people die every year from work accidents. We don't seem to be all that concerned about it. And I don't think we're going to get all that concerned about this. But if climate change is going to continue to happen and nobody seems to really care because we don't seem to be doing enough, get ready for this kind of stuff to continue to happen. It's frightening. Let's go to the phones. Got Alice on line 1. Alice, how are you?
I'm totally insane. How are you?
I am. I'm angry over this story.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I just wanted to say, between these so-called moms for liberty and what liberty they're trying to achieve, I guess, is the liberty to make everybody as ignorant as they want them to be, and then these laws that don't protect workers. I'm telling you, it's like we're living in one of those dystopian novels.
Yeah, I mean, 60 Minutes had the story that we've been talking about for about a month now. The PSSI people hiring 13-year-old children to clean the machinery on the kill floor of the meat processing plants. They finally came around to that, and some of the words that came out from the regulators, like, we didn't believe it could possibly happen. Not here, not to us, and here they are, 102 children that they identified, and the woman said it's probably much higher than that. Those are the only ones they found.
Exactly. It's totally uncalled for, especially, and the part that really blows my mind is you have all these right-wing people that are claiming they're so patriotic and we're the greatest nation on the face of the earth that's ever been, and yet they're doing everything in their power to make us a third world country worse than Russia. It's just uncalled for. We need to get out and vote like our lives depend upon it, because they do. But you have a good evening, Rick.
Thanks, Alice. Appreciate it. No, at the end of the day, it's going to come back to voting. It's going to come back to us deciding what direction we want this country to go. Are we okay with the polarization? Now, I know we've got our no labels people. We're going to bring moderation back. I'm not talking the kind of Joe Lieberman kind of moderation. But we do have to have conversations about where we're going forward. Or are we? I was reading a piece yesterday that said, in order for Democrats to take the Supreme Court back, it's going to take like till 2065. And you go, I actually don't want the court to be one side or the other. I want the court to be the arbitrator of the laws, to where the law is what matters. What's happened is the Federalist Society and right-wing money, billionaire money, has turned our court into what it is. And back to what it is. The moneyed interests get what they want, and the rest of us, well, not so much. And our court is now hyper-ideological. Our court is now hyper-corporate. Our court is now theocratic. And I don't know when that changes. Not in my lifetime. I'm ready to see the reality that in my lifetime it's going to be bad idea after bad idea, bad ruling after bad ruling, and we're going to end up being part of the history that people talk about in 100 years ago. Wow, that was a horrible time. The Roberts Court was a horrible. It's right up there with the Lochner Court when bad things happened. The question is how much of this are we willing to put up with? And what are you going to tell your grandchildren about this moment? Which side of history were you on? Which side did you find yourself? And every generation has to ask that question. Which side am I on? We've been sold this idea that the other side is evil. That don't talk to them. They're evil. Don't talk to your neighbors. They're bad. This is how they divide and conquer. And this is how, again, we end up getting screwed again and again and again. For me, the economic part of it is horrible, but the social part of it is just as bad, if not worse. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you miss any portion of the program, make sure you grab the podcast. Wherever you find your podcast, you'll find ours. We'll take a quick break. Right back after this.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. And the Teamsters pushed a law so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind. The union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case, and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
The best way to strengthen America's economy? How about investing in America's fastest growing industry? Clean energy. It means millions of jobs that pay well and can't be outsourced. And lower utility costs for families. Congress, let's get it done.
It takes a lot to raise a family. A good job, a good salary, and some patience. A lot of people my age are drowning in college debt. But I chose a different path. I'm a member of the IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. I work hard for my job, and I love what I do. I had a lot of choices for my future, but I made the best choice for my family. IBEW, the right choice.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At the Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right, left, or red, blue, when they are and always have been up, down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working-class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people, for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.